Yeah, well, I was just trying to get a point across before we all, take our rest. Oh, I'm sorry, he's still on here.
He didn't copy. He didn't compromise. Jimmy just plugged in and changed music forever. But even legends have their own legends. I don't know, man. They just freaking out and we play. But they listen though, which is a groovy thing. In just 4 years, Jimi Hendrix redrew the blueprint of the guitar. He blurred genre lines, defied technical limits, and became the sound of a cultural revolution. But through all the chaos, all the feedback and fire, he had a quiet reverence for the ones who came before, for the ones who lit his fuse. The players he worshipped weren't always flashy, but they had soul, style, fire beneath the strings. He didn't just listen. He studied. He borrowed. He built on their sound. And then he burned the rule book. Muddy Waters. B.B. King, Elmore James, Eric Clapton. Each one left fingerprints on Hrix's sound. And Hrix never hid it. And when he spoke their names, he didn't do it as a rock star. He did it as a student, an eternal fan. They're happening as far as music-wise, but far as they really stuck up on like ballads and, he wasn't just chasing fame. He was chasing sound, truth, magic. Here are the 6 guitarists Jimi Hendrix held above all others. Louder than distortion, deeper than feedback, and why, even after all this time, he never stopped chasing them. Number 1, B.B. King. 1. Some players bend notes. B.B. King bent time. He didn't shred. He didn't race. He made a single note weep and that was enough. From juke joints to world stages, King carved out a voice so personal it sounded like a conversation. And to Hrix, it was the purest form of truth. Jimmy once said of King's playing, he could make a guitar talk like it had a soul of its own. That's not just admiration, it's influence. Jimmy didn't copy BB's licks. He chased the feeling behind them, the control, the restraint, the raw humanity in every bend and vibrato. B.B. King didn't need effects pedals. He had Lucille, his fingers, and an instinct for heartbreak. On stage, King didn't move much. He stood still, eyes closed, and let the guitar do the talking. Rise watched that, not just as a guitarist but as a disciple. There was no showmanship for showmanship's sake, no fireworks, just precision, elegance, pain, and joy dripping off the fretboard. And when Hrix found his own voice, that DNA was still there beneath the distortion, beneath the flames, because King taught him something deeper. The note you don't play is just as loud as the one you do. That silence, that patience, it shaped Hrix more than any amp ever could. Other bluesmen gave Hrix grit. King gave him gravity. There's a reason BB was always in Hrix's rotation, recorded, studied, replayed, not for technique but for truth. He wasn't just the king of the blues. He was the king of tone. And for Hrix, that tone was sacred. This wasn't mentorship. It was inheritance. And every time Hrix played slow, really slow, you could still hear BB whispering between the strings. Number 2, Muddy Waters. 2. Some players shaped genres. Muddy Waters shaped electricity. Before fuzz pedals, before feedback, before psychedelic solos, there was Muddy. Barefoot in Mississippi, electric in Chicago. He took the delta and plugged it into an amp, turning the blues from a whisper into a roar. And Hrix, he never forgot the sound of that ignition. Hrix once said, "Muddy Waters is the first guitar player I ever heard. I think it scared me. That fear, that was power. It wasn't the notes. It was the force behind them." Muddy didn't ask the guitar to cry. He made it growl. And to a young Jimi Hendrix, that wasn't just music. It was revelation. Waters didn't play to impress. He played to survive. His guitar was a weapon, a protest, a prayer. And Hrix saw that early on. Saw how the guitar could be more than an instrument. It could be a body, a voice, a fight. There's a story Hrix told in interviews. He was just a kid walking by a radio shop when he heard Muddy's Rolling Stone blasting through the speakers. He stopped. He stared. He said it was like getting hit by lightning. Because Muddy didn't just invent the electric blues. He lit the fuse for everything that came after. You can trace a direct line from Muddy to Chuck Berry, from Chuck to Jimmy. But Hrix always circled back to the source. Muddy wasn't polished. He wasn't pretty. He was primal. And that's what Hrix chased his whole life. Not perfection but power. Other players refined the blues. Muddy sharpened it. And Hrix, he carried that blade into the future. This wasn't inspiration. It was ignition. Every time Hendrix struck a chord with fury in his hands, Muddy was right there in the burn. Number 3, Elmore James. 3. Some guitarists bent strings. Elmore James bent time. Before Hendrix slid across stage floors, before feedback became fashion, Elmore James was already turning a guitar into a scream. He didn't just invent modern slide guitar, he weaponized it. Hendrix once said, "The first time I heard Elmore, I didn't know a guitar could sound like that. That sharp metallic wail, like a train derailing at midnight, wasn't a mistake. It was Elmore's fingerprint. He used a cheap modified amp, raw, broken, distorted. And that distortion? Hendrix made it his gospel. Elmore didn't solo like the jazz cats. He didn't improvise with elegance. He struck, slid, stabbed, and wailed. His slide guitar sliced through every record like a knife through static. And Hendrix, he took that sound, stretched it, and strapped rockets to it. Hendrix wasn't copying. He was translating. For Hendrix, Elmore wasn't just another bluesman. He was a signal flare, proof that guitars could speak in tongues, scream without words. That sharp, trembling cry of metal on steel. Hendrix heard it once and never let it go. Number 4, Albert King. 4. Albert King didn't just play the blues. He stared you down through the strings and dared you to look away. With his massive hands gripping an upside-down flying V, he tore into each note like it owed him something. His sound wasn't polished, it was raw, jagged, dangerous. And Jimi Hendrix, he once stood in the wings just to watch Albert bend a single note into another dimension. Albert claimed, "I taught Hendrix a thing or two." He wasn't bluffing. Hendrix studied Albert's every move, his phrasing, his power, and especially that fearless sense of space. Albert didn't flood songs with notes. He made each one count. And when he hit like a freight train wrapped in soul. Their meeting in the mid-60s left a mark. Albert didn't treat Hendrix like a fan. He treated him like a student. Some even say he was cold to him. But Hendrix didn't mind. He was listening. That icy tone, that standoffish power, it bled into Jimmy's own playing. The way he let a phrase breathe, then punched through the silence with violence, that's Albert King echoing through Woodstock. Albert never chased the spotlight. He was the spotlight. And even in Jimmy's most chaotic solos, you can feel it, that slow, menacing fire that only Albert King knew how to light. Number 5, Eddie Cochran. 5. Before Jimi Hendrix lit guitars on fire, Eddie Cochran was already scorching the airwaves with riffs that felt like a punch to the gut and a wink right after. Eddie was pure rebellion in a pompadour. He didn't just play fast, he played sharp, each note dripping with swagger. His breakout hit Summertime Blues wasn't just a rock anthem, it was a warning shot. Cochran turned teen frustration into electricity. Jimmy once said he made the guitar sound like a voice. A real voice. That mattered because Hendrix didn't just want to play guitar, he wanted to speak through it. And when he heard Eddie slice through Come On Everybody with his tight, overdriven licks, it stuck. Cochran's tone wasn't messy. It was clean, punchy, razor sharp. He'd roll through a riff with confidence, but he always made space for the groove. Hendrix learned early that distortion means nothing without control, and that lesson came straight from Eddie's playbook. Eddie was also one of the first to experiment with multi-tracking guitars, layering rhythm under leads. Jimmy took that idea and exploded it across an entire galaxy. But the seed, it was Cochran. Despite dying tragically young, Eddie's influence roared far beyond the 50s. Jimmy didn't sound like him, but you could hear Eddie in the structure, the attitude, and the way Hendrix stood in front of an amp and made the room feel something before he ever sang a word. Eddie Cochran made the guitar a weapon. Jimmy made it a universe. But without Eddie's sharp edge cutting through the noise first, the path might never have opened. Number 6, Eric Clapton. 6. For all the cosmic energy and wild experimentation that defined Hendrix, one of his deepest sources of respect was someone much more reserved, Eric Clapton. Slowhand wasn't about theatrics. He was about precision. And Hendrix noticed they weren't rivals, they were mirrors. Clapton's blues-rooted phrasing, his ability to bend a note until it sounded like heartbreak itself, fascinated Jimmy. And it wasn't just admiration, it was mutual. In fact, Hendrix once crashed a Cream show just to jam with him. Jimi said, "Eric Clapton plays what he feels, not just what he knows. That's the difference." Clapton's work in Cream, especially tracks like Crossroads, showed Hendrix what economy could sound like. It wasn't always about fire. Sometimes the cleanest cut left the deepest scar. Hendrix studied how Clapton could go from whisper to wail in the same bar without losing the blues thread. And while their styles diverged, Clapton staying close to tradition, Hendrix flying past the stratosphere, they shared one sacred rule: every note must mean something. Clapton might have worn a suit and Jimi might have worn feathers, but they were both preachers of the same gospel. Clapton famously once said after watching Hendrix perform, "You never told me he was that good." It wasn't defeat, it was shock. Rise didn't try to beat Clapton. He wanted to be him and then surpass the limits Clapton never wanted to cross. Respect, influence, and just a hint of rivalry. Six guitarists, six stories, and one man who absorbed them all like electricity through the strings. Hendrix didn't just listen. He studied, borrowed, bent, and reimagined everything these legends offered. His sound wasn't created in isolation. It was forged from muddy Southern blues, British swagger, and American rock grit. Each name on this list left a fingerprint on Hendrix's playing. But what makes it all the more remarkable is that even after honoring his heroes, Jimi still managed to sound like no one else. That's not influence. That's transformation. And if this list tells us anything, it's that genius always has roots.